Hey up there, welcome back. In this video I'm going to be fishing again, and I'm going to be using this fly. Now that is either a size 14 or a size 16 Adams. It's like an upwinged fly. It generally just represents like a midgie or something like that. And there's plenty of midgies about. I'm getting eaten alive, so I'm hoping it works. It generally does work on this river, and as you know, I like to fish with a dry fly. Although there's not much rising. This is actually a rod that I bought, oh God, 25 to 30 years ago maybe. I saved up for months to buy a good fly rod when I was in my late teens, and I bought this one. This is a two-piece Hardy Sovereign 6'6" rod, so it's very, very small, and it hasn't got the weight written on it, but as far as I know it's a weight 2/3. It's married up to a Hardy the Flyweight reel. You can actually feel the weight of the fly as you're casting, you know. It's such a light setup. I'll see if I can give you some idea of the size of it. Right, I am not very tall. That is the top of the rod. It's a very small rod, a very light setup, and really anything over half a pound gives an incredible fight. Certainly with this setup, any trout over maybe 1.5 pounds could be described as a Lord Trout, and that's what I'm after. With my bigger setup, the 8-foot rod or even the 7-foot rod that I sometimes use, I would class anything over 2 pound as a Lord Trout. This one, because it's so small, you can kind of drop that down to about 1.5 pounds, so I'm after a Lord Trout yet again. And there isn't many of them in this river. This fly is being held aloft by Gink Fly Floatant. It's a bottle that is as old as this rod, so it's at least 20 to 25 years old. But it still keeps the fly afloat. It's really good stuff. I'll put the link to it in the video description. Well, we've got no backcast, there's no rising, so I may as well try somewhere else. Oh, little beauty. Look at that fella. Absolute beauty. And I don't normally kiss small fish. Yeah, man. Not quite as huge as the last one, but equally as beautiful. Look at that fella, man. You know, just a vision of natural beauty. very easy to catch as well. Fish rising all over the place behind me, and I just can't make them stick. I've had a couple come up and look at the fly, and that's as far as I've got. I'll move down a bit. Now it may not look like it on the screen there, but it's practically dark in here underneath these trees. It's quite late at night, and this is most definitely the evening rise. This is not the Lord Trout I'm looking for. Oh God. Tiny little fella, about 4 inches long. God, it's far too dark. I just cannot see the fly on the water. The water is pretty dark anyway, and it's practically dark in and of itself. So I just can't see the fly on the water. I can't see the back cast. I've got nothing really to orientate myself, so I'm going to change tactics. And in my little bag here, I've got methods of catching fish for every occasion, including my little hand line, a brand new hand line which I'll show in a future video, which I haven't even used yet, which is that from Aquatic. It's the Aquatic X Reel. That's a really beautiful piece of kit. As I say, I'll show that in another video. But to dig me out of the hole here, I'm going for the world's smallest telescopic rod, which is only 1 metre long when fully extended, and a tiny little spinning reel. I don't know whether you can see that or whether it's a little bit too dark. There's the end. That is a really, really tiny rod. I think I actually got this rod for under a £5, delivered from China. And I've caught dozens of fish on it. It's a really good piece of kit, believe it or not. And it's so cheap. I'll probably do a video on this rod and reel. Yeah, because it's just a really convenient piece of kit. Any pack will take this. I mean, you know, there's my pack, just a little sling bag, and it easily takes this as well as all my other gear. Right, so on this tiny little reel I've got 6-pound nylon with a little size 14 snap swivel on there. So even though it's almost dark, I'll still be able to attach a spinner to it without being able to really see what I'm doing. That is a size 1 or 0, let's have a look. Size 1 Fox Vibrax spinner. Very small, but very, very attractive to the trout. I see that camera's starting to struggle with the light as well, so I don't think I've got much longer at this particular location. That's the one. God, it's so dark I can't even see where to put the spinner. Right, let's go down a little bit more. Choose your weapon wisely. Still just as dark, but there's not as much overhang in the way of trees behind me, so I think we've got a little bit better light on the recording there. But now when I'm approaching these pools I can hear the fish rising. But it's so dark I can't actually see where they are, so I'm just casting speculatively based on where the rocks are or where there's any sort of, branches hanging in or anything like that, where the runners are. I'm sure I'll get lucky sooner or later. You probably can't see on the screen there, but just at the back of the picture there's quite a fast runner and it's reasonably deep. Between me and that there's more or less an island of rocks, which is probably just below the screen, round about there. So I've got to kind of cast over the top of that, let it sink a little bit, bring it back through the runner and then lift it over the rocks. So it's not a perfect cast, although the cast will have to be perfect to actually get a fish. That was a good one. Oh, and I had a bite as well. It's just such fine margins between getting it perfect and getting it stuck and lost in a tree. A beast. Now I wasn't expecting that to be in there. Holy hell, I don't think it actually got a hold of it either. Now you could be thinking, what's the point in trying to fish if it's so dark? But you might get a time in your life when the only available time to fish is in the dark, either late at night or early morning. That wouldn't be a strictly legitimate time to fish unless you were fishing for sea trout or something like that. But, if things ever went really south as far as civilization goes, you've got to be able to fish whenever you can. So when I'm practicing here in the near darkness, I'm enjoying it. And if I lose a spinner, I lose a spinner. It doesn't matter, Hopefully I'll do better next time. And really, if you've only fished in fair weather, if you've only built a shelter in fair weather, if you've only lit a fire in fair weather, if you've only been shooting or hunting in fair weather, you're not learning anything, really. This is education for me. It's learning to fish, without particularly knowing exactly where the fish are. As I say, I can hear them, but I can't see them. So I'm having to read the water. It's forcing me to learn things. Okay, from further down in the pool I've managed to pick one up. And it seems like a decent fish. It's certainly bigger than anything else I've caught tonight. Oh, it's a nice one actually. And if I was more professional I would have multiple cameras so you could see it under the water and all that stuff. But because it's so dark I doubt you'd be able to see it anyway. Now hopefully it's not too dark to see this fella. Oh, where are we? Get the grass off him. Oh, you can hardly see him, but he's quite a good fish. And I think he would feel a little bit left out if I kissed that little fella at the start and I didn't give him a kiss. So there we go. You can go back, son. Hopefully you can still see me on the screen there and you aren't just hearing my voice. But it's way too dark. I mean, it's late at night. We're very far up north, but we still don't get 24-hour sunshine in the summer. As much as I would love it, you know, I could quite happily live in Iceland or something like that. But I think I'll call it a day, or more specifically, a night with that fella, because he was a good fish and he came in quite willingly. Although saying that, he still did put up quite a fight, especially on this tiny little rod. And I think in the next fishing video, or you know, one or two in the future, I'll show you just what this little rod is when it's daylight, because it's a cracking thing just to keep in a pack, you know. I mean, you could tow it in the back of your car, camper van, whatever. It's just a really good, very cheap setup that works well, and I've caught dozens and dozens of fish on this rod and reel. Some people may call it cheap Chinese crap. It is cheap, it is Chinese, but it certainly isn't crap. I think it's well worth the money, you know. So check me out in a future video and I'll explain. God, it's pitch black. I'll explain what this rod and reel is that you probably can't even see there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.